Ciao d'Italia. Hello everyone and welcome to Misano. We're very excited to be back here in Italy for the third race weekend of the DTM. And last year we were here to write history as we did DTM's first ever night races here in Misano. And now we're very excited to have a guest driver here as well in Misano. We're very excited, Andrea, that you're here. How excited are you to be racing in the DTM and especially not having to worry about this because you'll be strapped into the car?
Yeah, so excited for sure. The car is amazing. It's so nice. The power, the power of the engine and the downforce is the first time I can feel it that. But the level of the drivers is really high, so it's not easy, and I have to learn too many things in a short time. But we did the first qualifying lap time, not too bad. But in the race, it will be very interesting to learn a lot of things.
You'll be starting from P15, so best of luck for the race, Andrea. And now to the commentator.
Andrea Dovizioso, welcome to the DTM. Hello everyone, welcome to Misano. In glorious sunshine, we are about set for what we expect to be a fantastic DTM race in soaring temperatures, it has to be said. I think tyre and tyre strategy is going to be critical to achieve a fantastic result in today's DTM race. Rennie Rast will be going from pole position with a brilliant qualifying from Jonathan Aberdeen, who will be starting from P2 alongside him. Sister driver, of course, this weekend in the WRT team too, Andrea Dovizioso, whom we just saw. There you can see, as always, it's a very busy grid here in Misano and lots of spectators to enjoy the race action to come then with our regular DTM drivers and of course a guest driver in terms of Dovizioso as well. There is Paul Di Resta then, one of the Aston Martin Vantage DTM drivers, and here at Misano last year we had another very special guest. That of course was Alex Zanardi.
And I'm here with Alex Zanardi. We're so excited to see you here. Last year you were also in the DTM when we wrote history in Misano with the night races, but honestly I prefer this weather. What about you?
Yes, I agree with you. Although to watch the race rather than driving, it's not a step forward for me.
But nevertheless, I'm sure you're pretty excited being here at DTM being so competitive and exciting, right?
Absolutely, it's a fantastic series. In my view, probably one of the best out of the motorsports world scenery, and I'm very much looking forward, since I'm a young boy, to maybe have another opportunity, you know, to drive one of these beautiful machines. We'll see, time will tell.
All right, well, we're hoping for it. Thank you so much, Alex, and back to you.
Alex Zanardi, what a great job he did last year. Now here is Pietro Fittipaldi. Now, Pietro Fittipaldi originally was scheduled to be working for the Haas Formula One team in Montreal this weekend and was not expected to be in the car, hence Dovizioso being in the car. However, Jamie Green, unfortunately, is poorly. We wish you a speedy recovery, Jamie, and therefore we find Pietro Fittipaldi driving the Jamie Green car. So Pietro Fittipaldi is on the grid and qualified pretty well, to be fair. He'll be going from P11. Pietro Fittipaldi is here in Misano.
And now we're here with Pietro Fittipaldi. We just discussed the situation. It's so hot here. We both feel a bit like fried eggs. But we're so excited that you're here at the DTM. So are you happy that this weekend you are at the DTM, even though you're in a different car?
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm really happy. Obviously, under the circumstances, it wasn't the best because Jamie had to do a surgery, you know, for his appendicitis. But I'm sure he's going to recover quick. And it was a good opportunity for me because I'll be racing Misano. It's my first time here, so it was my first time at the track yesterday. And we're starting 11th today. We're going to work our way to finish in the points. I wasn't too happy with qualifying, but I think the pace in the race will be better, and we're going to push to be in the points.
And I was just going to say, considering the fact that it's the first time you're here in Misano and you just learned the track and yesterday was the first time, P11 is not so bad.
No, it's not so bad, but you know, we should be better. I know we can do better, and I'm sure tomorrow in qualifying we're going to regroup and improve, and you know, I'll be getting better as well, sleeping on it. But you know, now we have a good race car. There's a long race ahead. It's really hot. I'm sure it's going to be extremely hot in the car, and tire deg is going to be a factor here, and I'm sure it's going to be some good racing.
All right. right, well, best of luck. Thank you so much, Pietro. And back to you.
Exactly what Pietro was saying, convinced that tyre degradation is going to be critical, and the strategies that the teams play in terms of how to use those tyres across the race today and indeed tomorrow, as temperatures are expected to be the same, will be crucial. I was talking to one of the Hankook engineers earlier with regards to tyres, and he was saying that track temperature could reach 50 degrees today, and in his opinion, two-stop strategies were not out of the equation, as we see Timo Glock then about to put his balaclava and crash helmet on. Here is Mike Rockenfeller. His qualifying time, 1:26.032, puts him P9 on the grid. So, and there we can see the Mike Rockenfeller car. Mike about to jump into that car. What can he deliver? Of course, he'll be on Le Mans duty next weekend, but we have two big DTM races for him to achieve this weekend. Nico Müller, another one of those Audi drivers. And of course, it is a BMW driver currently topping the points, and that is Philipp Eng.
Here I am with Philipp Eng. Philipp, you're starting in P7, and considering it is so hot today, I guess time management is going to be huge. And you're hoping for a really good strategy because you want to push all the way forward, right?
Exactly, yeah. Like you say, it's very important to make the tires last today, as it is very hot, both track and ambient temperature. But I think we had a good long run in free practice 1 yesterday, so I'm fairly optimistic that we will have a good race.
Well, best of luck, Philipp. Thank you so much, and back to you.
Thank you. He'll be a bit disappointed with qualifying, I think, going from P7. I think he felt there was probably more available, and just the qualifying session so short and sharp. And of course, with René Rast chasing him in the driver's points, René Rast taking 3 points out of qualifying for putting the car on pole position. Bruno Spengler, he will be going from P6 on the grid for the number 7 BMW. His best finish thus far this season came in race 2 at Hockenheim, where he banked a P5. And, well, you wouldn't bet against a podium possibility for Bruno Spengler from that position on the grid. And what about this young man, rookie sensation, Sheldon van der Linde, who goes from P5 on the grid for a BMW, the number 31 car, engineered by RBM. Sheldon has taken a P6 and a P5, the two best results, and that P5 coming in the second race at Zolder. The last time DTM was on track. So the young South African then, a sensation. As to is Robin Freins. So Robin Freins then going from P4 on the grid. Qualifying was quite dramatic certainly, for Marco Wittmann, who didn't make it out into qualifying, which is why there was no time set by Marco Wittmann. This is Loic Duval, who goes from P3 on the grid. Very good qualifying from Loic Duval for Audi. In fact, the first 2 rows containing nothing but the Audi brand. But they did have problems in FP in terms of tyres. In the FP1 session yesterday, as Andrea Dovizioso then gets strapped into the car, making his debut in DTM. So delighted that he is here. And what a qualifying from this young man. Jonathan Aberdeen for the WRT team qualified that car P2, 125.362. A significant achievement for Jonathan Aberdeen, former single-seater star, now confirmed DTM driver with the WRT team, headed, of course, by Vincent Voss. And there, Jonathan Aberdeen installed in the car. And what can he do from P2? Well, he's given himself a brilliant opportunity to convert that P2 into something very special indeed. René Rast, though, you just would not bet against the man in any session. And in qualifying today, he was very clever, because what he did, he went out in the early part of the session, he banked that very fast lap, a 1:25.294, and then parked the car in the garage and was not prepared to take part in the kind of second part of qualifying, preferring to preserve the tyres. And sure enough, as has been the case in every qualifying session in DTM thus far this year, there were no drivers that really improved in the second part of qualifying. So that was a wise move indeed by the team and also the driver, preferring to park the car and to preserve those tyres, which may pay dividends across the course of the 2 races this weekend. René Rast then is ready to lead from pole position. We are at the DTM in Misano on the Adriatic coast. It is an extraordinary place. 13,300 residents, 2 DTM races since 2018. And it is a truly breathtaking area. As you can see from these images, it's why so many people flock to this part of the coast to enjoy a holiday. But it will be no holiday for the DTM drivers that will be taking to the Misano World Circuit, Marco Simoncelli. .226 kilometers, 2.625 miles, 16 challenging turns, 6 left and 10 right. And think about this. For each lap, probably something in the order of 42 gear changes for each and every one of these DTM drivers. So there is the backdrop. The weather conditions, hot, humid, track temperatures potentially up to 50 degrees and the ambient temperature very high as well, which means that inside those DTM cars, as indeed is our guest driver, Andrea Dovizioso, boy, it's going to be hot. So he is looking forward to this, his first DTM race, and René Rast is looking forward to leading the race away from P1 on the grid. Did a great job in qualifying and put the car in pole position. Marco Wittmann, however, had a torrid time in qualifying, and he'll be starting from the pit lane. So, the information we have is that Marco Wittmann will be coming out of his box and starting the race from the pit lane. Basically, he didn't make any appearance in qualifying at all, therefore was not able to set a lap time. So here is the grid in full for you. René Rast then, as we've mentioned, goes from pole position with Jonathan Aberdeen going from P2. Then we find Loic Duval and Robin Freins, P3 and P4. Then the first 2 rows, an all-Audi lockout before we find Sheldon van der Linde and Bruno Spengler for BMW going from P5 and P6. Then it's Philipp Eng and Nico Muller sharing the 4th row of the grid, P7 and P8. Mike Rockefeller and Timo Glock are P9 and P10. Then we find Pietro Fittipaldi and Joel Eriksson on the 6th row of the grid for race 1. The best of the Aston Martins, Jake Dennis, P13. He has his teammate Daniel Juncadella alongside. Andrea Dovizioso, a very creditable P15. Ferdinand Habsburg, P16. Paul di Resta, P17. And actually starting from the pit lane, we are told, and sure enough, there is the car, Marco Wittmann. So no time set in qualifying means that he will be having to start from the pit lane and therefore right at the back of the grid. So there you can see Arno Zenzen, the team principal of Audi Sport Team Rosberg. Look of tension on his face always at the start of a race, and good crowds here to enjoy the DTM race action about to get underway. And all the pressure is on this man, of course, from the front, but boy, does he not soak it up. And Andrea Dovizioso, what's going through his mind? And Philipp Eng as well, as we get these fantastic cockpit shots of the drivers then ahead of the start of race number 1 across this weekend. We have 2 here in Misano. Last year, of course, the weather conditions totally different to what we're enjoying this weekend. And, of course, we raced at night last year, and we're racing during the day this year. So the scene is set then. 4.226 kilometers. The race duration, 55 minutes plus 1 lap, assuming we have no safety car. And as I've mentioned previously, some 16 turns, 6 left, 10 right. The circuit was hosted its first competitive event back in 1972. And last year's winners, Paul di Resta and Joel Eriksson. It was Joel Eriksson's first DTM win for the BMW driver. And Joel Eriksson is going from P12 on the grid. Going from P1 is René Rast, and is released on his formation lap. And Jonathan Aberdeen and the rest of the pack will follow suit as well. So race 5 of the 18-strong race season for DTM. And what racing we have had thus far. Of course, we opened the season at Hockenheim with just been to Zolder, and now here we are on the Adriatica coast in Italy, in Misano, before heading off to a completely different circuit after this one, the tight street circuit of Nürburgring, which is next on the agenda for our 2019 calendar here in DTM. Rast and Aberdeen, front row then, as we bring the grid in graphics for you as the cars make their way on their formation lap. And you can see them all there, weaving from side to side to try and drive some temperature into those tyres. Now, you'll forgive us for talking so much about tyre degradation and tyre preservation, but I think it's going to be probably quite critical during the course of this race, and probably the race tomorrow as well, where temperatures are predicted to be about the same as we have got today. So there is Marco Wittmann then, who has joined the train of cars from the pit lane. And whatever technical issues they had with the Marco Wittmann car, they will be hoping that it's sorted. Right in the center of the picture there, you can see the head of motorsport vehicle development for BMW, Rudo Dietrich. And he, of course, will be one of those that's very disappointed that Marco Wittmann is having to start right from the back of the grid. For our Motorsport and Aston Martin, Dr. Florian Kamelger there, who is, of course, the team principal for our Motorsport, and his best driver, Jake Dennis, who, of course, banked points in the second race at Zolder. Doing a very good job indeed. And factor this in, Aston Martin, of our 3 manufacturers, appear to be the manufacturer that is kindest to their tyres. Here's Rast into his grid box.
5, 3, 2, 1. Stop. Good position. 1. Stop.
So the anticipation begins to build. Of course, René Rast and Jonathan Aberdeen and Loic Duval and Robin Freins have to wait the longest on the grid as we await Marco Wittmann to join the back of the pack. And there to the left of your picture is Dieter Gas, head of Audi Motorsport.
2, 1, stop.
Wittmann is in his grid box, which means we should get the green flag from the marshal at the rear of the pack, and we are about to go racing here at Misano. Here come the lights at the top of the screen for you. When we have 5 lights out, the race will be on. Let's go racing. DTM, Jonathan Aberdeen bogs down. René Rast, though, does it perfectly. Loic Duval up to P2 already. And Bruno Spengler is up to P3. So Sheldon van der Linde and Jonathan Aberdeen being muscled out a little bit as they make their way through turn number 2 now into turn number 3. Jonathan Aberdeen looks like he's recovered to pick up that P4 place, but he's under pressure from Sheldon van der Linde. And of course the whole queue of cars behind him as well. So René Rast, while everything else is happening behind him, he's able to escape up the road with Loic Duval in P2, but Bruno Spengler on an absolute charge here. Here comes Sheldon van der Linde and Mike Rockefeller and Robin Freins, who lost out at the start also. And there is Andrea Dovizioso, but this is our race leader, René Rast, then from pole position. Aberdeen on the inside of Sheldon van der Linde. Behind them, they were 3 abreast. And Marco Wittmann, another driver that's got to make up places, or has already gone up 2 places. And it looks like it might be 3 as he pursues the Aston Martin ahead of him. So for the opening lap here at Misano, René Rast from Loic Duval, then Bruno Spengler, then Jonathan Aberdeen, then Sheldon van der Linde ahead of Mike Rockefeller, Robin Freins, then it's Philipp Eng and Nico Muller and Timo Glock. They round the final turn here, turn at number 16, to put the first lap in the book. And the DRS and push to pass now becomes unrestricted for the drivers. And our 55-minute plus 1 lap race is on. So just from the corner of my eye, I think Marco Wittmann and Ferdinand Habsburg have come in now. Very interesting to see. There was talk about, I was having a conversation with Hankook with regards to if you're right at the back of the pack.
Watch the right.
Whether a two-stop might be strategically beneficial. As Ferdinand Habsburg then makes his way out of the pit lane, and Marco Wittmann has done the same. So effectively, they've done their mandatory stop. Now, one assumes that they will stop again as Sheldon van der Linde and Jonathan Aberdeen side by side, then fighting over this P4 place at the moment. And Sheldon van der Linde has put himself ahead of the Audi of Jonathan Aberdeen. So the young rookie driver then is now P4. Ahead of him, Bruno Spengler, Loic Duval and René Rast. Jonathan Aberdeen relegated to P5 with Rocky P6, Robin Freins P7. Then it is Philipp Eng and Nico Muller and Timo Glock. So as you can see from the indication on the graphics on the left-hand side of your screen, alongside Wittmann and Habsburg, they've each stopped. Now, that's probably earlier than I expected and or anticipated, but what it does mean is that, of course, they have got the freshest tyres of anyone at the moment, and their mandatory stop has been got out of the way very, very quickly. But to expect those tyres to last the duration of the race potentially might be a big ask. Who knows what they're thinking strategically, and let's see if it plays out for them. And that's a problem for Joel Eriksson. So Joel Eriksson, race winner here at Misano last year, appears to be out of the race.
Victoria's died. Victoria's died.
So there we can hear on team radio the car has just stopped working then, and Joel Eriksson, regrettably, is out of the race. What a great shame. Now he'll try and nurse that and limp that car back to a safety or a position of safety. Robin Freins, as you can see, being really pursued now by Philipp Eng. So turn 7 is where the car of Joel Eriksson has been brought to a stop. It's not really a turn, it's almost just a kink. And that is converted into a green flag now. So on board with Philipp Eng then, who's running in P8 and chasing down that Robin Freins Audi ahead of him. And in the meantime, René Rast, of course, just solidifying his position right at the front of the pack, with just under a second ahead of Loic Duval. But we stay with Philipp Eng chasing down the car of Robin Freins ahead. So there is this battle that we're watching between Robin Freins and Philipp Eng. There's our race leader. Both he and Loic Duval have escaped just a little bit from Bruno Spengler. And back on board with Philipp Eng. We're thinking that we're probably going to get a safety car. Sure enough, the safety car is out. Now, in the early stages of this race, it is going to change everything, because with a safety car in DTM, of course, when the safety car comes back in, the cars will line up side by side for an Indy-style restart. So, fantastic entertainment and fantastic drama. And with barely 6 minutes of racing done, we have a safety car. That will be for the recovery of the Joel Eriksson machine. There, the car of Paul Di Resta that we could see, but there indeed is the safety car, making its way out to pick up the race leader, René Rast. So safety car out, driving and adding to the drama of DTM racing. And there is the stricken Joel Eriksson car, which is the reason for the safety car. The team will work very quickly to recover that car. And we may see a change to the race duration by dint of the fact that we have a safety car situation. Now, Bruno Spengler and Sheldon van der Linde are they're potentially thinking that this is going to be a great opportunity for them. And whilst all this has been going on, of course, best of the our motorsport Aston Martin cars is that of Danny Lucadea running in P11 at the moment. So the recovery operation for the Joel Eriksson car, which will not take very long from here. Therefore, we're not expecting this to be a long safety car period. Let's take a look at the replay of the start. Then you can see there, Jonathan Aberdeen really didn't get away very well. Bruno Spengler dived through the middle there and was on an absolute charge. He put himself on the inside, and then there was a bit of panel rub in between them. Just in the second phase of the start, I'm not sure Philipp didn't bog down a little bit as well. And there you can see through the windscreen of Philipp Eng's car, Jonathan Aberdeen was really being muscled a bit in that sandwich between Bruno Spengler and Sheldon van der Linde. So Bruno making sure that he put his car where he wanted it, and of course at that point was P3. Now this is the retirement from Joel Eriksson, which has brought out the safety car, which is where we're at the moment with the safety car out on track. We're expecting probably the safety car period is not going to be elongated by virtue of the fact that the Joel Eriksson car has been put to safety now, and as you can see, he's out of the car. We'll jump on the back of the moped and we'll be back in the pit lane. But race winner here at Misano last year finds himself out of race 1. It's race 2 that he won, so we'll be hoping for much better luck tomorrow. So sad to see Joel Eriksson out of the race. Marco Wittmann right at the back of the pack, of course. He didn't take part in qualifying.
Copy.
So we're expecting the cars to go side by side during this lap then for their restart. See no reason why the safety car will stay out for any longer than this lap. And as if by magic, that confirmation appears on our screen. And there, Joel Eriksson making his way back to the paddock area. A great shame. So it'll be side by side then. Rennie Rast, Loic Duval, then it'll be Bruno Spengler and Sheldon van der Linde, then it'll be Jonathan Aberdeen and Mike Rockenfeller, and all the way through the pack. Matthias Ekstrom, who is providing driver coach services to Andrea Dovizioso this weekend.
Remember to keep the brakes, to boost the engine for the restart. You need to build up boost pressure on the straight line like we did on the test.
So instructions being given to Andrea Dovizioso how to get the most out of the restart phase. He's currently running P14 behind Jake Dennis in the R Motorsport Aston Martin Vantage DTM car. But this is Rennie Rast, who will be minded that Loic Duval will fancy his chances going into turn 1, potentially from this Indy-style restart. So the cars will line up side by side behind the safety car for the Indy-style restart. So the lights are off on the safety car, and the cars will grid up together, and that is the restart grid for you. Rast, Duval, Spengler, van der Linde, Aberdeen, Rockenfeller, Freins, Eng, Muller, Glock, Lucadea, Fittipaldi, Dennis, Dovizioso, De Resta, Wittmann, and then Ferdinand Habsburg. So safety car pulls in, and sure enough the race distance has been increased to 55 minutes plus 3 laps following the safety car period. And now it's the responsibility of Rennie Rast and Loic Duval to control the pace of this restart, then the Indy-style restart in DTM. As once again we go. Sheldon van der Linde, Bruno Spengler side by side. Robin Freins taking a look at the inside of Jonathan Aberdeen, but Rennie Rast got it absolutely nailed perfectly. Loic Duval stuck to his guns and put himself behind Rennie Rast. As the cars all cross the timing line side by side, and you can see them going 3 abreast now with Nico Muller. Paul De Resta has got a pit stop penalty for jumping the start. Now, whether that was the original start or the restart, but he's picked up a 5-second penalty. I suspect it was for the restart. And they're 3 abreast with Pietro Fittipaldi, we were on board with, and one part of that 3 abreast equation is Marco Wittmann here. And there you can see he's on the right outside of Dovizioso and Pietro Fittipaldi. So Fittipaldi with the inside line, and Paul di Resta ahead of Andrea Dovizioso here as Dovizioso takes a look on the inside of Paul di Resta. It will give him the outside though. However, he's keeping his foot to the floor. So ahead of Pietro Fittipaldi at the moment. But this is René Rast leading from Loic Duval, Bruno Spengler, Sheldon van der Linde. Then it is Jonathan Aberdeen and Robin Freins. Philipp Eng under pressure from Timo Glock. And DRS gets re-enabled. So fraught and fantastic further back down the order at the moment. As push to pass has been enabled also, as you can see on screen. So the best of the Aston Martin cars is Danny Juncadella at the moment in car number 23. And Paul di Resta and Marco Wittmann having a real ding-dong battle here, arguing over that P15 place. Let's go on board with Marco Wittmann as he tracks the Paul di Resta Aston Martin car. Will he take a late lunge to the inside here? No, not close enough to be able to do so. A little lock-up from Paul di Resta. Here comes Philipp Eng. His race going from bad to worse, really. He's got Jake Dennis on his inside now, and beginning to wonder whether Philipp Eng may have an issue with his BMW. So he has both Jake Dennis and Danny Juncadella ahead of him, and Marco Wittmann desperately trying to find a way past Paul di Resta at the moment, and he's being denied by Paul di Resta. Well, Philipp Eng puts himself ahead of the car of Jake Dennis, but Danny Juncadella still ahead of him. So there is Philipp Eng. Now, bearing in mind, he's just running in P10 coming into this race. He was points leader. His arch enemy in the points drive at the moment is actually leading the race, René Rast. And as they cross the timing line, he's leading it by some 8/10. 41 minutes plus 3 laps of racing still to come here from Misano. This is DTM race 1 of the weekend here in Italy. And we've already had a safety car. And Pietro Fittipaldi now is going to feel the might and the pressure of Marco Wittmann. Whatever problems Marco Wittmann's car had during qualifying, it would appear that they've been very well sorted as Pietro Fittipaldi and Andrea Dovizioso, and then it's Marco Wittmann and Paul di Resta all in that four-way fight at the moment, and that four-way fight is over P13 in this race. So Dovizioso at the moment is P13. He is Pietro Fittipaldi right behind him, and Marco Wittmann trying to find a way past the Audi. He goes alongside Pietro Fittipaldi now. Pietro in, of course, for Jamie Green this weekend, and recalled to the DTM. Wittmann goes through like a knife through butter on Pietro Fittipaldi and will chase after Dovizioso now. And here comes Robin Freins having a go at Jonathan Aberdeen. Two completely different lines being taken there, but Aberdeen for the moment has got the better of Robin Freins. So Jonathan Aberdeen, who of course was blisteringly quick in qualifying, finds himself back down there in that P5 position rather than the P2, which was where he started, and crosses the timing line as Robin Freins has another look now. Will dive to the inside, but the door is firmly closed by Jonathan Aberdeen, and Robin Freins is going to have to find another corner with which to pressure Jonathan Aberdeen and try and make up a further place and find himself in P5. Sheldon van der Linde and Bruno Spengler gapped a little bit, and Robin Freins then does the job. And here comes Nico Muller having a go at Jonathan Aberdeen. Now a big lock-up from Bruno Spengler. And this is Philipp Eng getting past the car of Danny Juncadella. So Philipp Eng's BMW ahead of the number 23 Aston Martin Vantage of Danny Juncadella. And Bruno Spengler has got Sheldon van der Linde a lot closer now than he was, and that was brought about by the lock-up from Bruno Spengler, which we just saw on a shot as we were focusing on everything that was going on behind. So, of the cars that are out on track, we've lost Joel Eriksson, and the two that have stopped are Marco Wittmann and Ferdinand Habsburg. We know that Paul di Resta has got a pit stop penalty of 5 seconds. And that means when Paul di Resta comes into the pit lane for his mandatory stop, he will have to stop in a penalty box for 5 seconds before they can do the mandatory stop. So that's where he picks up the penalty, and that's where it's applied. On board with Andrea Dovizioso, then the MotoGP superstar, who is still heading Pietro Fittipaldi. Dovizioso in P13.
And then we have to see what we have to manage. It's 10 laps, so in total.
So listening from Timo Glock's team radio, here is Philipp Eng then. And he's chasing down Mike Rockefeller, I think is next in the queue. And Timo Glock has come into the pit lane. So Timo Glock is in and is down on his jacks and is released once again. Of course, we've seen a retirement from one BMW, and that was the car of Joel Eriksson. Let's hear from him now.
So very unfortunate for Joel Eriksson. Joel, what was the issue? Is it a technical problem?
Yeah, it was a technical issue for us. Yeah, it was really unfortunate. I mean, we did a pretty good start, and then the opening laps was quite okay, I have to say. Yeah, and then just when I entered corner 1, then I had no response on the throttle pedal anymore. So yeah, it was boring, but nothing to do about that. Just keep focused for tomorrow and then keep pushing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Joel. Back to you.
Thanks very much, Verena, and well done for catching up with Joel Eriksson, who, of course, was successful in race 2 at Misano last year, so he will be hoping for better luck as Philipp Eng dives in for his mandatory stop now. Timo Glock came in on lap 10, as you can see, and now coming in is Philipp Eng for BMW Team RMR. Race leader, René Rast. Then it's Loïc Duval and Bruno Spengler and Sheldon van der Linde. We're on board with our race leader at the moment, René Rast, then, who you can see that between P4 and P5, they really go out wide between those turns before running through turn 6, which is where we see the cars now. And there, Joel Eriksson taking photos of Philipp Eng's pit stop for interest. And a 9.8 second stop for Philipp Eng, who's making
this was incredible.
Way back down the pit lane now. You shortcut turns 1 and 2, and you come out at the Variante del Parco, which is turn number 3 when you exit the pit lane. So we have 35 3/4 minutes plus 3 laps. We've added another 2 laps. All about value here at DTM because of the safety car. And Sheldon van der Linde still unable to make a real impression on Bruno Spengler ahead of him. Spengler running in P3 at the moment. The best of the stoppers is Marco Wittmann at the moment. Now, bearing in mind, Marco Wittmann started rather, from the pit lane, so right at the back of the pack, but chose to stop really early on, and has advanced himself up to P10 now, and you can just see him coming into shot now as he heads down the start-finish line now and into turn number 1. Marco Wittmann currently heading that car of Danny Juncadella, which is running in P10. So Wittmann P9 and Danny Juncadella is P10. This is Mike Rockefeller, the car that Wittmann is chasing. Mike Rockefeller in turn is chasing down the car of Jonathan Aberdeen. So Aberdeen in the number 27 car and Mike Rockefeller in the familiar number 99. So this fight that's not really livened up yet, but we're expecting it to, which is going to be for P7. There is our race leader, René Rast, who's now put some 1.4 seconds over Loïc Duval, which is the biggest margin he's had over Loïc Duval since the very start of the race. So he's got himself well into the groove and well into his comfort zone in terms of driving this Misano track. Some 4.226 kilometers as Sheldon van der Linde, the rookie driver, and the hugely experienced Bruno Spengler, but Sheldon is maintaining the pressure on Bruno, perhaps hoping that Bruno might make a mistake or actually preferring to come in and try and do the undercut. So in comes Sheldon van der Linde then in the number 31 car for the RBM team. His best finish in DTM coming at Zolder, where he took a P5. And that was in race 2 at Zolder. We stay with Marco Wittmann then, who of course is advancing up the order as cars come in for their pit stops. And Wittmann now running in that P7 position. Into the pits then, Sheldon van der Linde and Jonathan Aberdeen. Both advantaging Marco Wittmann, who we are on board with now, the BMW Team RMG driver, who strategically they rolled the dice and brought Marco in on lap 1, which I'm not convinced by any means that in the track temperatures that we've got that they're going to expect the Marco car to run right to the end of the race without a further stop. But if it finds that tyre degradation is such that 2 stops will become necessary or advantageous, Marco perhaps will have the upper hand, having stopped earlier on. Nico Müller is P5 currently. And of those that have stopped, we have Marco Wittmann, Ferdinand Habsburg, also Sheldon van der Linde, Philipp Eng and Timo Glock and Jonathan Aberdeen as well. Race leader, René Rast then, followed by Loic Duval. Now, bear in mind, René Rast has, we've only had 4 races. He's won 2 of them this season. And a problem there for the Jonathan Aberdeen car, as that pit stop took a lot longer than they would have hoped from the WRT team, and that will have hampered his chances in this race. And a problem also for the Nico Müller car. Mike Rockenfeller seemed to be a seamless stop for Mike Rockenfeller, but slow on the Nico Müller car. So Rast then continuing to stretch his legs over Loic Duval. It's 1.6 now between P1 and P2. Robin Freins, who's running in P4. And there, the number 28 car of Loic Duval. Loic's best finish of P4 in race 1 at Zolder. But in comes René Rast then for his stop. So Loic Duval is elevated to the race lead. Bruno Spengler has come in at the same time, as you can see, and so too has Robin Freins. So Audi Sport Team Phoenix go to work on the René Rast car. Jonathan Aberdeen then, a pit stop infringement means that he's going to be reported to the stewards.
So we are virtually leading. You have good guys, to the guys who pitted, but we are racing Wittmann, and he's at the moment 20 seconds ahead, but he have to make it to the end, which we don't believe.
Ah, well, that's interesting.
Copy.
Engineers thinking the same as me, that for Wittmann to go all the way to the end of the race on that set of tyres which he changed on lap 1 is going to be a big, big ask. Well, Wittmann now, as you can see, finds himself in P2. Now, if somehow BMW can make those tyres last. So what's the problem here for Robin Freins? So Robin Freins then came in for what we thought was his mandatory stop, but clearly a problem for the number 4 car engineered by AB Sportsline. Straight away get the cooler onto the front of the car, but I don't think they can. I think the Robin Freins car has stopped and it's not going. And he's tried to restart it and it's failed. And that's a great shame. So that sees Robin Freins effectively out of the competitive order in the race and possibly out of the race altogether. So Marco Wittmann then is in the lead of the race because Loic Duval has just dived into the pit lane. So the team go to work on the Loic Duval car. This needs to be a seamless stop, 6.5 seconds, and out goes Loic Duval. He'll shortcut turns 1 and 2. There's a long pit out, and you rejoin the track at turn 3. In comes...
Okay.
Andrea Dovizioso.
Brake, rev. Go. New tire.
Oh, and out just...
Watch the white line on the exit.
ahead.
You push on the outlap. Push on the outlap. We can gain some places now. So we have 4 laps DRS left. We keep them to the end. We keep them to the end.
Now, Andrea Dovizioso was really close on Pietro Fittipaldi. I'd like to see a replay.
Pace was very good. Pace was very good. Now we need to push on the first 2-3 laps.
Whoa. Now, of course, tyre warmers not allowed in DTM. Now, with the ambient and track temperatures up where they are, it will only take a lap or so to bring the tyres up to temperature, but even so, in the first few corners, the car will be very twitchy indeed. So Andrea Dovizioso is going to have to really tread carefully with Pietro Fittipaldi right up his trumpet as well. So there is Marco Wittmann then, leading the race. And as we heard from one of the engineers, it's a big ask for Marco to be able to go to the end of the race on these tyres. What have we got? 27.5 minutes plus 3 laps for Marco Wittmann. He stopped on lap 1. And Pietro Fittipaldi then, as I mentioned, right on Andrea Dovizioso. Who will get their tyres warmed quicker? Well, perhaps it will be Pietro Fittipaldi, perhaps it will be Andrea Dovizioso, but the cars are side by side, and this fight that's going on between the two of them, Pietro Fittipaldi wins it and gets himself ahead of Andrea Dovizioso. In is the number 76 car of Jake Dennis.
Okay, go.
7-second stop for the point scorer in Zolder, Jake Dennis. And he makes his way out of the pit lane now. And we've not seen Robin Freins return from the pit lane, so really rather think that that's going to be a retirement for for Robin Freins. Paul di Resta is in the pit lane as well. Here is René Rast then, who has Sheldon van der Linde for company now. So Marco Wittmann is leading the race. So Rast, Sheldon van der Linde, then it is Loic Duval. Now ahead of them, Ferdinand Habsburg and Marco Wittmann as well. So Robin Freins, it's a very regrettable retirement. Let's find out why.
Now I'm here with Robin Freins. What exactly happened? Was it a technical problem as well that you had, or why did you have to end the race?
Last lap before I boxed, I felt that the car was not running smooth. Up, downshift, upshift, so nothing was really smooth anymore. So I stopped for the bits and the engine went off.
Who knows? All right, thank you very much, Robin. Back to you.
Thanks so much. Well, that's what we suspected then, because it sounded like the car wasn't running, and Robin had tried to restart it and seemingly had failed. And as he says, the lap before he chose to pit, the car was not running smoothly at all. And, well, that's a great shame. Robin Freins is out of the race. So Rast beginning to stretch his legs over Sheldon van der Linde and Loic Duval currently. And Marco Wittmann is P1 and Ferdinand Habsburg is P2. Now, bear in mind that Ferdinand Habsburg also stopped very early on in the race. So both he and Wittmann on tyres which will degrade quicker than all of the cars behind. This is Philipp Eng, who's currently running in P8. He's got Nico Müller ahead of him, and the Philipp Eng stock was not a good one. And Philipp Eng has Mike Rockefeller for company as well in the number 99 car. Mike Rockefeller currently running in P9. Jonathan Aberdeen rounding out the top 10 at the moment. So Nico Müller, Philipp Eng and Mike Rockefeller, the 3 cars that you can see in that shot, and indeed you can see once again now. Wittmann has got some 13.5 seconds on Ferdinand Habsburg, who in turn, as you can see, is some 17 seconds up the road on René Rast, but Rast on much fresher tyres will be setting about really reducing that gap, and he should be able to do so relatively easily. And just as we mentioned that, we go on board with René Rast, and you can see how the gap between himself and Wittmann over the last 3 laps has significantly altered. So Rast, there's Sheldon van der Linde in the Castrol Edge BMW. Sheldon van der Linde currently running P4. He is Nico Muller. Then the Philipp Eng and Mike Rockenfeller battle that continues. 23 laps plus 23 minutes plus 3 laps, I beg your pardon, remaining in this DTM Race 1 here at Misano. And again, the gap between Rast and Ferdinand Habsburg, as you can see. Seconds being taken out on each lap as René Rast continues his pursuit up the road. And now Sheldon van der Linde is feeling the pressure of one Mr. Loic Duval right behind him. So BMW versus Audi fight going on here for what at the moment in the race is that P4 position. But bear in mind, Wittmann and Habsburg were not expecting to be able to run till the end of the race. So Loic Duval then chasing Sheldon van der Linde through every turn. And we'll try and put the pressure on the young South African and try and provoke just the tiniest of mistakes. And Loic getting oh so close there. But Sheldon being able to soak up the pressure from Loic Duval. And for the moment show him a clean pair of heels. The gap between them, as you can see, is reducing after the last 3 laps. It's from 7/10 down to just 3/10 between the two of them, and virtually welded together they are now. So Sheldon van der Linde, his rear view screen is full of the Loic Duval car as Loic makes a move now around the outside with the DRS assist and puts himself ahead of Sheldon van der Linde, who of course will have DRS available to him on the next lap, providing he can stay close enough to Loic Duval. But Loic seemingly with the pace advantage in addition is able already to gap Sheldon van der Linde. We're on board with Marco Wittmann then, who is 16 seconds ahead of Ferdinand Habsburg and 27 seconds ahead of René Rast. And we have 21 minutes plus 3 minutes, 21 minutes plus 3 laps remaining of this DTM race. It would be an absolute fairy tale if Wittmann was able to achieve even a podium out of this race, given that he started from the pit lane. But I'll be absolutely amazed, and we're not absolutely sure when the tyre drop-off is going to come in terms of whether it's going to be cliff-like in terms of the tyres, or whether it's going to be more smooth than that. René Rast hard at work inside the cockpit of his number 33 car then. Currently showing us P3, but do bear in mind that he's on much fresher tyres than both Ferdinand Habsburg and Marco Wittmann ahead of him. It's not only track temperature that's having an effect on the cars, but of course the ambient temperature as well. In terms of the heat going through the power plants of these DTM cars, and the heat inside the cockpit must be absolutely so demanding on the drivers, who of course are all absolute athletes and at the peak of their physical fitness, and by Jiminy, that is needed in today's race. So Loic Duval, as you can see, has left Sheldon van der Linde in his wake and is beginning to reduce the gap to René Rast as well. Now, Duval has got 7 laps of DRS remaining, 12 pushes to pass. So Rast has got some DRS up his sleeve for use later in the race if necessary. There's Philipp Eng, who's staying ahead of Mike Rockenfeller at the moment. That is P8 and P9. So Philipp Eng, who came into this race leading the Drivers' Championship in terms of points, having taken his first and well-deserved win at Zolder for Philipp Eng. And Mike Rockenfeller getting much closer to the BMW now. Mike Rockenfeller, of course, on the podium in race 1 at Hockenheim, taking that P2. He's had a P2, a P5 and a poor finish, and a P4 finish in the races thus far, but that was mired by his non-finish in race 2 at Hockenheim. can see the DRS being used on Philipp Eng, or being used by Mike Rockefeller to get on terms with Philipp Eng. Eng at the moment, though, is able to make that BMW sufficiently wide to prevent Mike Rockefeller from coming through. So they round the final turn number 16 here. And on the start-finish straight then. Inside the Philipp Eng car, he seems to have everything at the moment under control with regard to defending against Mike Rockefeller. Sophia Flörsch, welcome, good afternoon. Enjoying the DTM race action here. And there, the number 62 car of Ferdinand Habsburg, who of course is in P2, and he's, what, 7 seconds up the road on that man, René Rast. So you'll just see the René Rast Audi come into the picture now, running in P3. But as I have been mentioning, the gap to Ferdinand Habsburg and also to Marco Wittmann is coming down dramatically, lap after lap after lap. Race leader, Marco Wittmann. And just taking a look at the lap times. Last time around, it was a 1:30.276 for Marco Wittmann, a 1:31.524 for Ferdinand Habsburg, whereas both René Rast and Loic Duval are in the 1:29s, mid-1:29s. So there you can see Marco Wittmann's last lap, a 1:30.276. And Marco's doing a very good job here, but can he maintain that for 16 minutes plus 3 laps? Now, Rast would like to be, well, he's 25.5 seconds behind Marco Wittmann. As Bruno Spengler and Sheldon van der Linde here in replay. And Spengler going through on the Sheldon van der Linde car. The gap from Wittmann to Habsburg is 20 seconds. Well, 19.8. To René Rast it is 25.4. 15.5 minutes plus 3 laps. This could be an extraordinary fairy tale for Marco Wittmann. However, still a lot of racing to come yet before we see the checkered flag, but Marco Wittmann still lapping in the 1:30s, and therefore the 1:29, mid-1:29s that both René Rast and Loic Duval are doing means that the gap is not being reduced sufficiently for them to get on terms with Marco Wittmann. But what we're wondering is whether Marco's tyres are just going to go off like that, and all of a sudden his lap times are going to decrease. Well, at the moment he certainly seems to be managing it absolutely perfectly by coming in early on and stopping on lap 1, as indeed he did. I was going to say he's been super smooth thereafter, but actually he's had a lot of fighting to do, so would have thought that he would have taken quite a lot out, but he seems to be managing it perfectly at the moment. There's Ferdinand Habsburg, and René Rast can now see that R Motorsport Aston Martin within his target sights, and that will probably provoke him and motivate for a even quicker lap time from René Rast, as you can see the target ahead of him now. So there is the Ferdinand Habsburg car that we can see through the windscreen of René Rast's Audi. So the number 33 Audi pursuing Ferdinand Habsburg. Of course, Ferdinand Habsburg being there is really playing into the hands of Marco Wittmann. And René needs to get past Ferdinand in one move, ideally. Around turn 16 they go then. Now, as much as we've been extolling the virtues of Marco Wittmann and his tyre management, we should also do the same for Ferdinand Habsburg. And it has to be said that the R Motorsport Aston Martin cars seem to be those that are kindest on the tyres. And again, Ferdinand Habsburg, one of those early stoppers, and that could pay dividends for Ferdinand Habsburg. So there, the graphics to the right-hand side of your screen. As the gap continues to come down. And Rast is right on him now. That was a lock-up. Now, was that lock-up from Ferdinand Habsburg, or was it from René Rast? Suspect it was more likely from Ferdinand, but... And now you can see Rast will get to the inside of the Ferdinand Habsburg car. And that's job done. Next in the target sights then is Marco Wittmann, but he is 23 seconds up the road and is still lapping in the 130s. So 130.477 for Marco Wittmann, a 129.633 last time around for René Rast. So René really needs to put in some extraordinary laps now to try and reduce the gap to Marco Wittmann sufficiently, but that gap is 23.4 seconds. It's a big, big gap. We only have 12 minutes of racing, plus 3 laps. And there you can see how the gap has come down between René and Marco, but not by the meaningful margins I would suggest that René needs. Look, Duval, who of course will be targeting the Ferdinand Habsburg car ahead. The gap between Habsburg and Duval is about 1.4. So the number 28 Loic Duval car and Ferdinand Habsburg. René Rast, of course, has escaped up the road from the Aston Martin, but he is not bringing down the margin between himself and Marco Wittmann by probably as much as he would like. So Loic Duval now, it's a question of when, not if, he will find his way past the Motorsport Aston Martin of Ferdinand Habsburg. Oh, the back end of the Loic Duval car letting go then as he pushed the power through. So through turn 16, up the start-finish straight now. And Ferdinand Habsburg places his car quite deliberately right in the middle of the track, and it's his right to be able to do that. He can defend his position, and that's exactly what he's doing. Of course, it'll be frustrating for Loic Duval, but it's down to Loic to try and find where he can pin a move on the Ferdinand Habsburg car and make it stick. And of course, the more laps it takes, the further up the road René Rast gets. So Duval just shows his face to the inside of Ferdinand Habsburg. It was never on there through that turn. And he certainly wasn't close enough to be able to make it happen. But now he does get to the inside of Ferdinand Habsburg, and he picks up that P3 place. So Loic Duval does go through. And the order then is Marco Wittmann, René Rast, and Loic Duval. And less than 10 minutes of the race, plus 3 laps to come. The gap between Wittmann and Rast, as we see in a replay, this was René Rast on Ferdinand Habsburg. And this then, Loic Duval on Ferdinand Habsburg. The gap between René Rast and Marco Wittmann, as I was saying just before we looked at those replays, is still 22.3 seconds. Philipp Eng, meantime, is still joined by Mike Rockenfeller for company as they contest this P8 place. It's P8 for Philipp Eng at the moment, P9 for Mike Rockenfeller. And Philipp Eng doing a good job in terms of defending against Mike Rockenfeller. Wittmann 22.3 to the good on René Rast, who is P2. Then it's Loic Duval, Ferdinand Habsburg is P4. Then it is Bruno Spengler, Nico Muller before Sheldon van der Linde. And then this battle that we're watching now as Philipp Eng and Mike Rockenfeller continue their quest for that P8 place. Jonathan Aberdeen is rounding out the top 10 currently. We've lost Robin Freins and Joel Eriksson. We heard from both of them, both retired with mechanical failures, sadly. And now Mike Rockenfeller, whoa, takes a look at the inside of Philipp Eng. He was on an absolute flyer then. And Philipp Eng, who's really sticking his elbows out and trying to prevent Mike Rockenfeller from coming through, and Mike is using every trick in the book to try and find a way. We're on board with Philipp Eng then into turn number 16, the final turn, heading up towards the start-finish straight now. And Mike Rockenfeller, is he going to have a go going into turn number 1? Again, Philipp Eng puts the car exactly where Mike Rockenfeller needs the car not to be, and again he's denied. So it's supreme defensive driving from Philipp Eng, and Mike Rockenfeller doing everything he can to try and find his way past the number 25 car. But whatever he's thrown at it at the moment is being denied. So there, as this battle continues, both of these drivers putting on a great show for us over this P8 place. And here is our race leader, Marco Wittmann, who has more than the length of the start-finish straight. And, well, there you can see René Rast hasn't even done the final turn yet. Now, I don't know if you can remember what I was saying a little while ago about how this would be an extraordinary fairy tale story for Marco Wittmann, but I felt it was going to be perhaps a fairy tale too much, because I didn't think that he was going to be able to nurse his tyres for the rest of this race. But I have to say, through being super smooth, Marco Wittmann has still got just under 21 seconds over this man that we're on board with now, René Rast, who stopped much later than Marco Wittmann as Mike Rockenfeller goes all the way around the outside of Philipp Eng. And boy, he's been trying and trying and trying. Good driving from the both of them, truthfully. Philipp Eng well within his right to defend. But now that Rocky has got past Philipp Eng, you can see he's escaping up the road, but it'll take a lot for him to get on terms with Sheldon van der Linde, who's some 3 seconds up the road from Mike Rockenfeller. We're into the final 5 minutes of the race, all bar a little, plus 3 laps, which is what's lending itself to this story of Marco Wittmann then. Now, if you joined us for qualifying, Marco Wittmann was unable to take part in qualifying due to a technical issue with that BMW car, therefore did not set a time. Subsequently, as it looks like it's Paul de Resta who's going to be retiring his car. And that's a great shame to see Paul de Resta out of the race. So back to the Marco Wittmann story.
By himself, eh?
My goodness me.
Slow down a bit. Slow.
Robin Freins.
I was not releasing you, Robin.
There were 2 guys releasing me. So
Robin Freins.
So Spengler turn 2, Müller on turn 2.
I will get back to this story of Marco Wittmann, but such activity in the pit lane. Robin Freins, who we thought it was a race retirement for him, is actually making his way back out now of the garage. Whatever problem they had with the Audi, they seem to have sorted it. Sadly, whatever problem they got with the Paul de Resta car, he is retiring from the race. So, Marco Wittmann then, the story that I was talking about, Marco Wittmann then did not set a time in qualifying, therefore had to start from the pit lane, chose to stop very, very early on, and of course it was well worth rolling the dice at that point. He did stop very early on, and then as everyone else stopped, as Marco Wittmann was clawing his way through the pack and everyone else stopped. But whether now, just looking at these pictures, as I said, Marco Wittmann has had to nurse those tyres for all of this race. Having stopped on lap 1, René Rast stopped much later as Sheldon van der Linde gets past the Ferdinand Habsburg car number 62. The gap now between Marco Wittmann and René Rast is, well, it's down to 19.6 seconds, but Wittmann has just done an extraordinary job of tyre management, of getting that car through the greater majority of this race. And whilst he is slower than René Rast, he's only a second slower, and we've only got 2.5 minutes of the race, plus 3 laps remaining as Mike Rockefeller goes through on the Ferdinand Habsburg car. Now, I would suggest that the way that Ferdinand Habsburg is losing pace and losing time now, that his tyres have completely dropped off, is the same going to happen to Marco? Because Ferdinand Habsburg and Marco stopped at the same time. Andrea Dovizioso, who's running in P14.
Oh, and 3 laps. 2 minutes to go and 3 laps.
So there we have it. So it's effectively 5 laps left. As now Philipp will get past Ferdinand Habsburg also. So Habsburg's laps times now are in the 1:33s. Now, Marco Wittmann's lap times are 1:31.1, whereas René Rast's are 1:29.6. This isn't all over yet necessarily. So there is Eng ahead of Ferdinand Habsburg. So now, by seeing how Ferdinand Habsburg is losing out significantly, it would appear that his tyres really have dropped. As I say, Marco Wittmann stopped at the same time as Ferdinand Habsburg, right in the opening lap of the race, and therefore Marco's lap time is going downhill as well. The question is, in the laps that we have remaining, can René Rast, who's still 18 seconds down on Marco Wittmann, never going to be, unless the tyre deck becomes even greater for Marco Wittmann, it's never. René just does not have the pace to reduce that gap sufficiently. I mean, it's a P2 finish and banking very, very good points, but of course he is a race driver, and therefore the fairy tale for Marco Wittmann remains very much a possibility here. The order is Wittmann, Rast, Duval, Spengler, Muller, Rocky is P6, then it's Sheldon van der Linde, then it's Philipp Eng, Ferdinand Habsburg and Jonathan Aberdeen. Robin Freins, who of course retired, went back out again, but I can see through the corner of my eye from our commentary location, he's just come back into the pit lane again. So Robin Freins will be back in the garage, presumably. So Marco Wittmann then, from this man, René Rast, who is currently P2, with a huge gap to try and get on terms with Marco Wittmann, and I think the gap is too great. I've been saying it for a few laps. And Wittmann has just done an outstanding job. I mean, it's a strategic call to bring Marco Wittmann in early on. It was worth rolling the dice, because he was starting right from the back of the pack, of course. So the gap is down to 16 seconds between Rast and Wittmann. So there is Marco Wittmann. Since he's had his nose in front, he's just been super smooth to try and protect the rubber. His lap time of 1:31.6. Now, René Rast is a clear 2 seconds a lap quicker, but is going to run out of laps. So there you can see Marco Wittmann rounds the final turn, whereas René Rast has still got 2 more turns to do before he even reaches the start-finish straight. They won't even be in the same camera shot, as you can see. So it's going to be too much here for René, with everything pushed apart and DRS available to him and better tyres. This fairy tale for Marco Wittmann is still alive and kicking. You can see it's gone from 18 to 16 to 13. I mean, Rene is throwing absolutely everything at it, but with just 3 laps to go, it would need a significant, even greater drop-off from the tyre performance of Marco Wittmann for Rast to be able to reduce that 14-second gap. However, Rast is a real racer, and never say never. So we're watching the car of René Rast then, who is P2. Loic Duval, well, if Loic Duval can stay in this P3 place, that would be his first podium of the year, as Sheldon van der Linde and Philipp Eng, the ding-dong battle going on for P7 in the race. Philipp Eng, of course, going into this race as the Drivers' Championship leader, and with René Rast finishing in P2 and banking 3 points for qualifying pole position as well. René Rast should go to the top of the Drivers' Championship. So Philipp Eng on the inside of Sheldon van der Linde there, and stayed on the inside. Of course, that became the outside for the next turn, but he got the momentum to stay by Sheldon van der Linde. And that's precisely what he did. Right. Back to the story of the lead then. The gap is down to 11 seconds now. So there is Marco Wittmann just disappearing to the right-hand side of his screen. And here comes René Rast with just 2 laps left to go. So Marco Wittmann ahead of this man, René Rast. See, Rast is throwing absolutely everything at it. The lap time difference is like 3 seconds, but the gap is 11 and a half. And therefore, Wittmann's super smooth driving over the final third of this race is really paying dividends. He's been kind to the Hankook rubber, and that's repaying him in bucketfuls, isn't it, currently? As you can see, in Rast's desperation, he even locks up. So here is Rast then really having to fight the car, and we're on the last lap. And there, for the first time almost in the same shot, you can see the 2 cars. But Marco Wittmann, who started from the pit lane, potentially has done enough here. His last lap, a 1:31.7. Rast's was a 1:30.0. That's the difference in terms of lap times that the cars have got. But what Wittmann has done is very cleverly build himself such a margin and eked out the maximum he possibly could from the set of Hankook tyres on his car. So he heads up to turn number 9 now, turns in, then that becomes turn number 10. Now it's the long straight with the kink of turn number 11. He goes through that kink now, taken absolutely flat before turn 12, which is also a flat kink, and then really heavy braking for turn number 13. Short blast of the throttle before turn number 14. Turns in. Back on the gas again around the final turn. The fairy tale will come true for Marco Wittmann, who started right at the back of the pack, and he takes a win.
Maximize pickup, do a really slow in-lap, really slow, fuel saving pickup, and congratulations, you won the race in Misano. Good job, Marco.
P2 for
Thank you,
René
guys.
Rast.
Thank you for this strategy. It was really hard out there, but we made it. We made it. 25 points. Yeah.
So Wittmann wins from Rast, from Loic Duval.
Congratulations, Marco. Really, really good job and really good pace.
Thank you, mate. Thanks for the nice car. The balance was really great. Without this balance, we couldn't have managed the race, I have to say.
Incredible. So, in the end then, sorry, just taken aback by that, and really interesting to hear Marco saying that the strategy was the right one. It was difficult for him over the final laps, but remarkable achievement. Wittmann wins from Rast, from Duval, from Spengler, Muller, Rockenfeller. Then it was Philipp P7, Jonathan Aberdeen, Sheldon van der Linde, and Timo Glock rounding out the top 10. Absolutely amazing. And Andrea Dovizioso finishes P12. That is a very strong effort indeed. That, though, is our race winner. And in the driver standings then, as I predicted, René Rast then goes to the top of the driver standings. And now Marco Wittmann is P2. Philipp relegated to P3. But just 10 points between P1 and P3. As always, oh so close in the DTM. So Wittmann then doing as he's been told, very slow in lap and picking up as much debris as possible to make sure the weight is right for Parc Fermé conditions when the cars come in. So the podium places we are going to see Marco Wittmann, René Rast and Loic Duval. Wittmann, who of course won the opening race of the 2019 DTM season at Hockenheim. Since then, he hasn't podiumed, so he'll be very pleased to get himself back on the podium and on the top step at that. And in a race where surely that could not really have been expected. But he has done it. So we stay on board with Marco Wittmann then as he makes his way into the Parc Fermé, or the placement area for the top 3 cars. And we're on board with Andrea Dovizioso, who that P12 position, a fine effort indeed in his first ever DTM race. So P1, P2 and P3 cars then. He's pretty happy with that, and after the disappointment of qualifying, so he should be. René Rast towards the end threw everything at it that he possibly could, but actually finished some 8.2 seconds down on Marco Wittmann. Well, they all worked so very hard, of course, between qualifying and the race to even get the car on the track. Marco Wittmann, well, repays them by winning the race ahead of René Rast and Loic Duval. Then it was Bruno Spengler and Nico Muller. Then it was Mike Rockenfeller and Philipp and Jonathan Aberdeen and Sheldon van der Linde and Timo Glock rounding out the top 10. P11 went the way of Pietro Fittipaldi, and very good finish for Andrea Dovizioso in his first ever DTM race, taking P12 ahead of Danny Juncker-Deyer. And then it was Ferdinand Hamsberg and Jake Dennis. And of course, we lost during the course of that race Paul de Resta, Robin Freins and Joel Eriksson. So the drivers then being weighed. René did everything he could, and certainly towards the end of the race was putting in extraordinary lap times, but Wittmann had done all the hard work and wasn't going to be troubled. He'd built up such a gap, and I don't know when it was that I said this could be a fairy tale. Could just see it unfolding, couldn't we? And he's certainly done it. There is Rene, though, by banking the points for pole position and P2, puts himself in a good position in terms of the Drivers' Championship. Make no mistake of that. Guido Stallman there, making sure all the drivers are together for the photo. And a good P3 for Loic Duval, his best finish of the season so far. And Marco Wittmann smiles with the P1. And here, a replay of a car heading towards the checkered flag and taking an extraordinary win. So Marco Wittmann, race winner. René Rast threw everything at it towards the end. Let's hear from him right now.
And here I am with René Rast, starting from pole, finishing in P2, but you don't seem that happy, I guess, because of the safety car.
Yeah, it would have been an easy win without the safety car again. So that's DTM. Unfortunately, got screwed by the safety car again many times now. In the end, we hope that it's not gonna be decided by safety car the championship. But yeah, in general, we can be happy. Car was quick, but obviously, yeah, we lost the victory due to safety car, which is not great, but that's how it is.
But the good thing is that usually Saturday in this season is your bad luck, and Sunday is the good luck day. So are you happy about tomorrow, and then maybe you can pick up the victory?
Yeah, let's hope tomorrow is not a new day, obviously. But I think I should leading the championship now. I'm not sure. So that's one positive, but tomorrow is another day.
That is very positive. All right, so thank you so much, René, and back to you.
Thanks, Verena. Of course, the point that René makes is absolutely true, that the safety car played to the advantage of Marco Wittmann, but he still had to make that car last right till the end on those tyres as well. So inevitably, the safety car did play a advantage to Marco Wittmann and a disadvantage, and a big disadvantage to René Rast. But hey, there we are. That is racing. And as I say, Marco still had to nurse that car and those tyres all the way to the end of the race. P3, Loic Duval, his first podium of the season. And P2, and now the Drivers' Championship leader to René Rast. The race winner, though, make no mistake, BMW M4 DTM driver Marco Wittmann was on a mission today. So the drivers heading up towards the podium then. And there is our race winner, Marco Wittmann.
Pronti per il vincitore? Un grande applauso, signori, con i colori della BMW, il 2 volte campione dalla Germania, dalla Baviera, Marco Wittmann!
Alex Zanardi there, Matthias Ekstrom, and Sebastian Ogier all lining up to deliver the podium trophies. Marco Wittmann then to the top step. Here comes René Rast then, who takes P2. And Loic Duval then P3. And of course the RMG team represented on the podium as well, as we pause now for the national anthem for Marco Wittmann.
È il momento di ascoltare innanzitutto l'inno nazionale.
And the anthem plays out. And trophy presentation time then. Alex Zanardi then, BMW brand ambassador, and of course was on this very track when DTM was here in Misano last year, and he'll be very, very delighted to see a fellow BMW driver take the win. And he shares that moment with Marco Wittmann as he presents the trophy. So Matthias Ekstrom here this weekend, very much as a driver coach for Andrea Dovizioso. DTM champion back in 04 and 07. Makes the trophy presentation to the team. So Sébastien Ogier then, six-time World Rally champion, making the trophy presentation to René Rast. And Matthias Ekstrom then to Loic Duval for P3. So the drivers will pose for the photographs before the champagne is unleashed on the podium. And well, neither. I think Alex Zanardi and Sebastian were deep in conversation and actually forgot that the champagne was on its way, and then chose to make haste their escape. Oh, there, Marco making sure that he shares it, which is pretty kind, isn't it? So there we have it then, race one done and dusted. Of course, another race to come tomorrow. As I regularly say, we can take a look at the results from race number one. Does that give us a form guide for race number two? Oh, no, it doesn't. Because in DTM, everything can change overnight. We're expecting much of the same in terms of track conditions and also for temperature as well. That doesn't mean a thing, though. So the drivers are all lined up once again for interviews, of course. But Marco Wittmann, our race winner then. And here in replay then, Marco Wittmann going from the very, very back of the pack and making haste his escape up the road, as you can see. We had the safety car, which of course played into Marco Wittmann's hands, but this, for my money, was the crucial factor. Chose to pit very early on, and therefore it was always going to be a tough ask to make the tyres last right till the end of the race, but his super smooth driving in the end, over the final third of the race, meant that he was able to protect the rubber and keep it going. Pietro Fittipaldi was just one of the many cars that he had to get past, and he did get past them. And they're going past Pietro Fittipaldi. As you can see, Pietro was always prepared to fight back, but Marco with the upper hand and fresher rubber at that point as well, and put himself side by side with Andrea Dovizioso. And went through on the inside and then would chase down Sheldon van der Linde. And here from being on board with Andrea Dovizioso, the sight of the BMW coming through on the inside. There came a lock-up from Sheldon van der Linde, which played into the hands of Marco Wittmann, and so did the safety car, and so did the tyre longevity, to see him make it to the checkered flag and take a very, very unexpected win right from the back of the pack. But Marco Wittmann did it, And he did it through strategy and through good tyre management as well. And let's hear from the race winner now.
So here is the man of the day, Marco Wittmann. Congratulations. I mean, what a phenomenal race for you. You started from the pit lane and then you ended in victory. Obviously, it was also thankful that we had the safety car session, but how excited and how proud are you?
Yeah, really proud, I have to say, because of this technical issue in quali. My mechanics, my team made a big effort that we are even able to start the race, even if it's from last. You always have to go racing, and there can always be some possibilities, and we knew from the back we have to take some risks, so we took it lap 1 and we hoped for the safety car, and luckily it came, of course. But I have to say it was a lot more difficult than it probably looked from the outside. Managing the tires for the whole race was very difficult, especially in the heat here. And I have to say the last 5-6 laps, they were really terrible, because I got a lot of vibration in the car and I was just hoping that I don't get a tire puncture or a tire failure. But finally, yeah, we made it to the finish, and of course it's just great coming from last to P1 after such a bad qualifying is always nice.
Congratulations, and we're looking forward to tomorrow's race, what you can do there. Thank you very much, Marco Wittmann. And now here are the highlights of the day. Enjoy and make sure not to miss the race tomorrow. See you then. Bye-bye.